Once Upon a Time by Hobbit Falls on Archive of Our Own. Narrated by Kimberly Likes Tea. Chapter 3 Handsome and the Beast. Sunlight streams through a window as Deuce blinked his eyes open. He sat up in an unfamiliar bed and stretched. Looking around, it appeared that he was in a humble home, with Ace nowhere to be found. He huffed at this before climbing out of the bed and looking around for something to wear. His eyes landed on a pair of blue pants, blue shoes, a white shirt, and a blue vest. He quickly changed into those clothes, just as a familiar voice called from the closed door.
Bellin, are you awake?
Deuce opened the door to see Jack standing there, a smile on his face.
There's my bookworm.
He grinned.
Are you off to the bookshop?
Startled, Deuce nodded, trying to remember what story he was in now.
Don't forget we need bread.
Jack reminded, holding out an empty basket.
I will need some for the science fair.
Oh, Deuce realized as he took the basket. I'm in Beauty and the Beast, and Jack is my father for some reason.
I won't forget, Father.
Deuce smiled before leaving.
I will be back before you know it.
With that, he rushed out of the house and into the village. People bustled to and fro, and Deuce kept his eyes out for that familiar head of hair. Would Ace be one of the townspeople? Deuce hummed to himself. If we were both major characters in Cinderella, then wouldn't it be the same here? Would he be the Beast, Gaston, one of the... His thoughts were cut off as he bumped into someone. Looking up, he yelped and stepped back, staring face to face with Leona.
Sorry about that, Leona.
Deuce muttered, trying to walk away quickly. He felt someone grab his arm, and he turned to see Leona smiling at him.
Bellin, are you feeling all right?
He asked, the smile not leaving his face.
You must have mistaken me for one of those silly characters in those books of yours.
Deuce's face drained of color. Gaston. Leona's Gaston. He looked behind Leona to see Ruggy standing there, who ended up giving Deuce a wave with a large grin.
I'm fine, Gaston.
Deuce managed to spit out, trying to break free from the other's grip.
I have to go.
Nonsense.
Leona grinned, pulling Deuce close so he had an arm around his shoulder.
What's more important than spending time with your husband-to-be?
Husband-to-be?
Deuce squeaked out.
I'm flattered, Gaston, but I don't think I can marry you.
What, do you think he's not good enough for you?
Reggie piped up. Deuce stammered, looking for a way to escape.
I just think I'm not good enough for him.
But you're the most handsome man in this village,
Leona said, finally letting go of Deuce.
That means you're perfect for me.
If Leona could see himself acting like this, Deuce thought as he took a step back. He suddenly widened his eyes and pointed at something behind the two.
What's that?
Both Leona and Reggie turned around to see what he was pointing at, and Deuce took that chance to bolt towards the bookshop.
You can't hide from me forever, Bellin.
Leona's voice carried throughout the village.
I will take you as my husband.
Days had passed since his encounter with Leona and Reggie, and Deuce was sitting in his house, upset. He still hadn't come across Ace, and to make things worse, Jack had left for the science fair, leaving him alone. He huffed, his head perking up when he heard a knock on the door. He hastily made his way over and threw it open, his smile fading when he realized that it was Leona standing there, a large bouquet of flowers in his hand. Ruggy was a little ways behind him, a grin on his face.
Gaston,
he muttered.
Bellin.
Leona replied, pushing his way into the house and closing the door behind him.
I am about to make you the luckiest man in the world.
Oh, are you?
Deuce asked, folding his arms.
And how exactly are you going to do that?
Leona grinned and shoved the flowers in Deuce's face.
Bellin, will you marry me?
He asked. Deuce froze at this, his back to the door.
Shocked, I see.
Leona grinned.
Maybe this will help you.
He leaned forward, eyes closed. Panicking, Deuce felt behind him for the door handle, and once he felt it, he opened the door and stepped to the side. Leona opened his eyes in surprise as he fell forward, Ruggy letting out a little gasp at the scene before him. Deuce snorted at this, covering his mouth to hide a smile. Leona turned towards him to say something, but was caught off by a horse running into the village, neighing loudly. Deuce's blood ran cold when he saw that no one was on it. Careful not to step on Leona, he ran towards the horse and took its muzzle, calming it down.
Where's father?
He asked.
Can you take me to him?
Without so much as a glance at Leona and Ruggy, Deuce climbed into the back of the horse and took off from the village. The castle was dark and foreboding, making Deuce gulp nervously as he pushed open the large doors.
Hello?
He called out, receiving no answer in response.
Father?
Bellin.
A faint voice was heard, and Deuce rushed towards the source. He kept calling out and receiving yells in response, each yell getting louder until he reached the dungeons. At the far end was Jack, reaching out through the bars.
Father!
Deuce exclaimed, taking Jack's hand in his.
Who did this to you?
A horrible monster.
Jack replied.
I came looking for shelter from a terrible blizzard, and he locked me in here.
You stole one of my roses, you thief.
Deuce jumped at the deep voice and turned around to see a shadow looming in the darkness. He squinted, but he could not make out any features. Gathering his courage, he stood, fists clenched before talking to the shadow.
My father was probably picking those roses for me.
Deuce said.
It is my fault that he took one of your roses. Please let him go.
A thief deserves punishment.
Came a snarl.
Then take me instead.
Deuce puffed up his chest.
I'm not afraid.
You would switch places with a thief.
Came a shock whisper.
He's my father.
Deuce said.
Well, that is a weird thing to say.
Of course I would.
The shadow grunted before moving his head. The door to the dungeon swung open, and before Deuce could speak, an invisible force dragged Jack out, screaming.
No, Bellin, don't.
He yelled.
Don't do this.
And in the blink of an eye, he was gone. Deuce shakily sighed before turning to the shadow.
Aren't you going to shove me into the dungeon?
He asked, raising a brow. The shadow laughed before stepping into the light, Deuce choking on air when he saw who it was. Ace had grown to be about 7 feet tall, with beastly features. He spread his arms wide, grinning.
Not bad, eh?
He grinned.
I sure scared the shit out of Jack in this form.
Of course you're the beast.
Deuce rolled his eyes, folding his arms.
This is the second time the book has pushed a romantic relationship on us.
And?
Ace asked, raising a brow.
What's wrong with that? I remember what you said back in Cinderella.
Deuce sputtered at this, completely being taken off guard.
Why? Because we...
Feeling his face heat up, he cleared his throat before changing the subject.
Anyway, we should try to finish this one quickly,
he said.
I don't like the idea of Leona marching towards the castle with an angry mob to kill you.
Ace let out a booming laugh, making Deuce flinch.
Oh man!
Ace laughed.
Leona's Gaston? Oh, poor Deucey.
He tried to kiss me.
Deuce said with a disgusted look on his face.
Oh, we have to tell the real Leona when we get out of here.
Don't you dare. It's been 2 months.
Deuce sighed, lounging on the chair in the library.
And the rose petals keep falling. Why can't I just cure you of your curse now?
Because that's not how the story goes.
Ace replied.
Leona and the mob will come to try and kill me. He will mostly fail, and then you'll profess your undying love for me and cure me.
Undying is a bit too much.
Deuce muttered before standing and stretching.
I'm going to head to the kitchen. Do you want anything?
I'm good.
Ace said.
Man, I miss Trey's cooking.
Me too.
Deuce chuckled before leaving.
I'll be back.
Okay.
Whistling to himself, Deuce made his way to the kitchen, thinking of what to have for a snack. Once there, he rummaged around the pantry before grabbing a block of cheese and a slice of bread. Cutting up the cheese and bread, he made a plate of sandwiches and headed back to the library. A loud thud at the front doors made Deuce jump, almost dropping his plate. When another one didn't come, he thought it was just a tree trunk hitting the door. Sighing, he took a step forward, dropping his plate in surprise when the front doors opened. A mob, led by Leona, charged into the castle, halting when they saw Deuce.
Bellin,
Leona exclaimed, running forward and grabbing Deuce by the arms.
you're okay. I thought the beast had done something horrible to you. Your father came running into the village 2 months ago, rambling about a horrible monster that had taken you hostage. I spent the last 2 months readying an army to save you.
But I'm fine.
Deuce smiled weakly.
See? He didn't do anything to me. He's actually sweet once you get to know him.
Leona frowned at this before pushing Deuce into Reggie's waiting arms.
The beast cast a spell on Bellin.
Leona declared.
We must kill him in order to free my beloved. Kill the beast.
A feeling of dread came over Deuce as he struggled to escape Reggie's arms.
Gaston, no!
He yelled.
Don't hurt him!
His yelling fell on deaf ears as the mob rushed forward, yelling. Deuce watched helplessly as they made their way to the stairs, before smiling in relief when the castle's sentient objects started fighting against them. That relief was quickly washed away when he saw Leona sneak away and run up the stairs. Lifting his leg up, Deuce slammed his foot onto Reggie's, making the other let go of him with a howl. Panic overtaking him, he rushed upstairs and threw open the doors to the library. Ace was on the ground, looking up fearfully as Leona held a dagger already covered with blood above him.
You will no longer curse my beloved,
Leona yelled. Deuce let out a yell as he ran forward and tackled Leona. Dropping the knife in surprise, Leona was pushed towards the window, the impact of him hitting it breaking it. Deuce let out a choked sound as something grabbed him from behind, saving him from falling out of the window with Leona. As he collapsed to the floor, shuddering at what he had just done, he turned to see Ace smiling weakly at him.
I think we should end the story now.
He hoarsely whispered.
I don't want to die in this dumb book.
And I won't let you.
Deuce said, placing his hands on either side of Ace's face.
I love you, Ace.
Ace's eyes widened before a bright glow took over him. Deuce shielded his eyes, opening them again when it vanished. In its place was human Ace, dressed in princely garb and in shocked look. Deuce chuckled at this as he took Ace's hand in his. Did you? Ace began, blushing fiercely. Deuce replied, blushing as well. They were interrupted by a glow between their hands, and both of them sighed.
I guess I'll have to answer you in the next story.
Deuce said sheepishly.
I'll wait for your response.
Ace smirked before kissing Deuce's hand.
Ace, you!
And that's it for that chapter. Like last time, I'll leave a link to the original fic so you guys can read along with me. I'm so glad to be going back to this project with my voice now fully intact. So there might be a slight difference in my voice. But if you guys liked it, feel free to subscribe and leave a like and a comment. And as always, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching.